barbershop conversation, guys. Feel free, hit the subscribe button. So shout out. I'm gonna give a shout out to Trill Boxing again because I see it on my timeline. Terence Crawford and Errol Spence are responding to one another. Let's just put it like this: Black Fight Fan in '78 gave me all the ingredients, every ingredient, right? Every ingredient, whether it was the Coke ingredients that's locked up in the safe, whether it's Kentucky Fried Chicken. They gave me the ingredients and said, Fred, go make that chicken. Go. Some racist gonna have fun with that comment, but go make the Coke. They gonna have fun with that comment too. But anyways, uh, I asked the questions that was raised on their radio show, and poof, the boxing beef is in uproar today, man. And I want to delve into something that uh, this is just, uh, think about this from this perspective. I'm going to do a series of videos on this because it's not going to stop. And I have so much videos on it, and there's so many layers to this. Think about this. Terence Crawford signed a multi-year deal with ESPN, but didn't have to. Think about that for a second. He signed a multi-year deal, but didn't have to. He could have leveraged himself like Kevin Durant did, like LeBron James was the master of it in Cleveland. He was a free agent every year because he didn't truly trust the owner. And you can see the difference between how he and Magic Johnson. I know Magic Johnson is the owner, but I can see how uh, um, how the difference of level of respect and trust. Um, Terence Crawford is under a contract when he could have wrote his own check next year. He could have been a free agent every year, assuming he keeps on winning in impressive fashion. I don't know how long this multi-year deal is, but it's a guaranteed of minimum of $3 million a year. Now I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to help you fully understand this. Bob Arum and ESPN is giving him $3 million with the hopes, I'll say it again, in hopes of Terence Crawford fighting Errol Spence on pay-per-view and him getting whatever percentage that they agreed upon, and they make all their money back and then some. Whereas Errol Spence is his own boss. I'm going to say it again. Errol Spence is his own boss. He has something called Man Down Promotions and does not have a promoter. So that means Errol Spence goes in and negotiates his contracts with Showtime. He doesn't take what they give you. Terence Crawford plate is already set for 3 years. He's eating chicken, rice, and broccoli and green beans every day for the duration of that contract. Whereas Errol Spence, there's no ceilings. If he wants filet mignon, he can negotiate for a filet mignon, and that's what's not being stated. And these are facts. When you work for someone, there is a ceiling. There is a cap on how much you can make. When you do not work for someone, there is no ceilings. I am a living testament to that. If you guys followed my Instagram, I did a story yesterday, and you guys will follow me. I was watching the Ugas fight, and I said, what the fuck is going on? And I left on the 5th. All my rents are due on the 5th. And so I said, the Ugas fight, it was real dry. So I said, let me check my rents while the Ugas fight is going on because it was putting everybody to sleep. It was a boring fight. And so I checked my rents. And that's an indicator I am my own boss. And to level up, I said on my Instagram story, it's going to be taken out of context. It was more of an inspirational story. But I'll just say this. I turned down a 6-figure ESPN contract I said I was laid off at 27, turned down an ESPN, six-figure ESPN contract to bet on myself. And now I'm doing my rent roll, working a boxing match on my own platform, and I don't know how much Danny Garcia or Sean Porter is making, but I have a property that's comparable to their salaries. And that's your own boss. Terence Crawford can't get that under Bob Arum. Bob Arum takes a great percentage. All right, after taxes, after he pays everyone off, we'll never know how much he makes. But Bomac said his life has forever changed, which is the great thing, because he and Bomac has been down since I've known them. So at the end of the day, Terence Crawford, I need you to fully grasp and understand business acumen. You're not your own boss. So there is a cap on what you can make. And if you think you're the exception to the rule that Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, Mikey Garcia, Floyd Mayweather didn't like, you might be the fool. And I don't know the future, but you only can play the percentage game. You only can base off past history. Bob Arum never finished his career with his great ones. Think about that. As long as you've known Bob Arum, let's just focus on this era. I'm not going to focus on the great heavyweights of the past and era. I'm talking about the 90s and the 2000s. No, let's just focus on the 2000s. He's on the great fighters he's had in the 2000s. He's never finished a career with him. Floyd Mayweather paid $750,000. Oscar De La Hoya took Bob Arum to court to get out of his contract. Mikey Garcia sat out 2 years not making any income. And Manny Pacquiao was $20 million in debt owing the IRS. So Terence Crawford, if you think you're the exception to that rule, good luck. I'm going to side on a man that's worth $1 billion, Floyd Mayweather. I'm going to side on Mikey Garcia, who's his own boss, who's strategically plotting, do I go fight Errol Spence and make millions and millions of dollars on pay-per-view, or do I unify my division? Go figure, man. I want everyone to use this Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, and I don't really have to choose sides. We all know the truth. No pun intended. We all know the truth. All right. We would rather be our own boss than because quote unquote, all ESPN is doing is giving him a supersized Happy Meal. I'll repeat this again. All ESPN is doing is giving Terence Crawford a supersized Happy Meal. Terence Crawford doesn't own McDonald's. Errol Spence has a chance to own McDonald's. Terence Crawford never, under that contract, will never ever have a chance to own McDonald's. And when you have the ability to bet on yourself, Terence Crawford, Bomac, I need you to fully understand, bet on yourself. If you already have $3 to $4, $5, $6 million in the bank, bet on yourself. You're in a perfect position to bet on yourself. Create your own contracts. Create your own promotion company. Don't be a subsidy of nobody. No matter what promotion company you come up with under this contract, you are a subsidy of ESPN and Bob Arum. You are not your own entity. All right? So I just think that needs to be understood. I think that needs to be overstood, because it's Terence Crawford they talking back and forth on the media, and I can do a video on that later, but I just want y'all to understand business. Business 101. Business 101. I turned down a comfortable six-figure job. It would have, with incentives and everything, it would have been a six-figure gig with the ESPN logo on my business cards, and you know what I mean, working downtown LA. You know, get a condo that's looking down on Staples Center. I said, I'm not Bobo the Fool. I know the heights that I can go. I know where I can go. I'm not going to sit at this desk and get a belly and have, no, 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 no. That's not happening. I'm not going to allow you to pay me this minimum, this little bit of money and strip me of my goals and ambitions, and people call them dreams. You're not stripping me of that. I'm going to forever bet on myself. And Terence Crawford, that's the difference. That's the difference between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Will Errol Spence fail at it? I'm uncertain of that. But he can always fall. He can always go back to a promoter. If he fails, if Man Down Promotion fails, he can always go to, let's use Bob Arum. He can always go to Bob Arum as a promoter and say, hey, Bob Arum, can you promote the rest of my career? This is what I need. I failed at this. Terence Crawford, you never gave yourself a chance. So at the end of the day, boxing fans, ask yourself, who would you rather be? Your own boss or working for someone? Just because your boss buys you a brand new car and gives you all these incentives, that doesn't make it okay. All right? Now, I would want to make 100% profit. No one makes 100% profit. We have something called taxes in America. We have something called expenses to make money. So that's not true. But who wants to hire you? Errol Spence long term has a higher chance of getting closest to 100% of the money. Terence Crawford can never ever get that because ESPN got to take their share. If it goes, let me help you understand something. Richard Schaefer broke this down in a video. You guys remember that video because I wanted Richard Schaefer to break down money. He breaks it down like nobody's business, right? We all know how great of a job he did when he was with Golden Boy, running them pay-per-views, and everyone was happy. He said it's a split between the company, right? The company and the company. So Time Warner and let's say ESPN, there's a 50 split. So there's 50% goes to, because they're promoting the fight for free on Time Warner, so they get 50% of the $100. Let's say Errol Spence, Terence Crawford is a $100 pay-per-view. They get 50%. Now, this is just topical. This is not a real concise and itemized account, but let's just take off what we know. Now there's 50% in the pot, right? Left, because Time Warner took 50%, the cable company. There's 50%. So we're going to split that down the middle. So now let's say Terence Crawford, let's say they're both ace high for the sake of this example. Terence Crawford gets 25% of that 100%, of that 50% that's left, and Errol Spence gets that 25% of what's left. Now, let me help you understand this. Let me fully help you understand this. Terence Crawford has to pay ESPN and Bob Arum. I don't know what the percentages are, but those are the two things that he must pay. I'm not talking about the trainers. Everyone pays their trainers, etc., etc. Now, Errol Spence, on the other hand, just has to give a percentage to Showtime for the pay-per-view. He doesn't have to pay a promoter. So at the end of the day, when they fight on pay-per-view, Errol Spence will walk away with more money. ESPN is banking on the pay-per-view with Errol Spence. And Terence Crawford will be locked in. He can't renegotiate that deal. He can't renegotiate a percentage. He can't. He cannot. He is locked in. He is capped off. You think ESPN don't make mistakes? He may think he's getting he thinks he's getting overpaid now. But like Showtime was the plan. They overpaid Floyd Mayweather up front. But because Floyd Mayweather had Al Heyman, he had a huge upside on a Manny Pacquiao deal. Get where I'm coming from? Think Floyd Mayweather when you're thinking Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. and Errol Spence being Floyd Mayweather. I'm talking about in terms of getting more of your money back. And the reruns of the pay-per-views, he's not going to own. As Floyd Mayweather said, he owns his masters. ESPN is going to own that. Bob Arum is going to own that. Errol Spence will own, quote unquote, his masters. So whenever that fight replays years down the line on like BET at late at night, or like, Fox Sports TV replays those fights, he gets a piece of it. So I just wanted to explain this. There's so many other topics I want to delve into, but that's what it is. So anyways, man, barbershop conversations, man. Feel free to hit the subscribe button, but ask yourself this: would you want to be a boss or an employee? Jay-Z said on the Carter's album, you either a boss or you got a boss. You either a boss or you got a boss. You either a boss or you got a boss. Choose one wisely. I holla.